Hello and welcome to the Boiler Upload Ledman and Casey show for now, filling in for the Clint and Casey show because Clint's not here. Had some schedule issues today where we had to do an emergency media session with Painter and the team because they are taking the bus up to Michigan tonight, Ledman.
That seems weird. Why did they say why?
Well, the snow is coming tomorrow. So
Right.
anytime leaving tomorrow, snow would hit. Why they chose
Okay.
a bus?
Right.
And I'm assuming it's the same thing as here where there's not really a bunch of flights that can fly into your school. Wasn't there some issue of um like it's an unfair advantage for
Yeah, but that what I think was only for recruiting visits.
okay.
Yeah, I think as far as the team flying in and out, it doesn't matter.
I
But they
don't
were
yeah, I don't think
is
Purdue is bringing recruits to Michigan.
right. Yeah, but the issue with the airport was
Right.
because there was no actual airline who flew into it anymore. You couldn't use it because then it was just for recruiting, and the NCAA has
Right.
stupid rules about everything. So
Yes.
there you go.
It could have been simple that it's if you're making new arrangements to travel, it's a lot easier to get one bus
Yeah,
than it is
yeah,
a one plane.
yeah.
In my experience, I always have to work harder to get my private jet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just makes sense because you got to get the pilot, you got to get
Right.
the people to, the maintenance.
And at that point, it's a 4 hour drive. I've used half of it talking to people. So
Yeah,
take off
exactly.
with it.
Exactly.
Um, Obviously, this is Edgar Ledman of Hammer and Rails fame, the new leader dictator, which
Co-manager with Drew. If Drew listens to this or sees this, and
so
I know
less impressive.
if I don't say co-manager, he will have me murdered. So I have to say co.
It sounds healthy, but
Yeah, it's a good relationship we have going.
right. Um, so yeah, you're coming in to fill in for Clint today. We're going to talk a little bit of once again. Purdue is, by the way, Ledman, like the shirt. Hmm?
I do
Hmm?
like the
Huh?
shirt. I do
Yeah.
like the shirt.
Home field,
I,
baby.
I'm
Home field
wearing.
apparel.
Hold on, I'm wearing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers shirt, but it's also Star Wars.
The Mando Lawsons.
Don't
Not
know
my
why you
best.
went.
Not
No,
my
not.
best.
I'm moving on. I'm gonna let that
That's
go.
fair. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the number one ranking for Purdue. Third time in program history, second time this year, first time they've ever come back to it.
Yep.
And then we're going to talk about the Big Ten basketball scene vibe. Not good.
Fart noise.
Yeah. And then I have a mystery question for you at the end, something that I found out today, kind of to do with this shirt.
It's
That
random. Okay.
I don't think we've ever talked about, which is part of why I'm mad at you.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
That's fair. So, Ledman, Purdue's number one again. How's it
Heck yeah,
feel?
we are.
Do we care more the second time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like, it's not that it's ever easy to be number one, but I
Yeah.
feel like
Lonely, as some say.
it's the loneliest number.
Yes.
Uh, once you get there and then you get knocked off, like
Mhm.
Purdue has against Rutgers, both times they've been number one. It almost seems like it's harder to get back
Right.
because then everybody else is nipping at your heels and you're not the media darling anymore.
Right.
The AP voters are always looking for somebody new, always looking for the news story, something to spin. And so if you can work your way back up after getting knocked down, I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, it's especially with the way last season went.
Yeah.
Obviously, Purdue's undefeated. Finally, get that number one ranking, and then to just immediately lose it, and it did kind of take some of the varnish off the season, where it felt like, you guys got this ranking, but I'm not sure you ever really deserved it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was almost
And
like we got it by default. And
right,
then once we lost, everybody
right,
was like, I knew it. I knew
yeah.
it. And then we never really got back up there again.
Which hits personal to home to I think most Purdue fans
Yeah.
because that's the
Yeah.
mindset already.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely good that the entire landscape of college basketball right now is just in shambles. Everyone's losing,
Yeah.
except for Purdue and Alabama. Were you surprised that Alabama didn't take over?
No. No.
No,
I
it was
that was
close.
I it shouldn't have been
Yeah,
because I'm not saying Alabama's not a good team. They certainly are. I think they're deserving of number two. But when you looked at the previous week, Alabama received no first place votes. Purdue, I think,
right.
had three. So the two teams in front of Purdue obviously lost. Kansas lost twice, so you knew they were going down. Houston lost to Temple unranked, so you knew they were going down too. It was just a matter of would the voters give them kind of a mulligan and keep them ahead of Purdue. That was my only thought, was maybe they would stay above Purdue, but I didn't think there was any chance that Alabama, a team who received no first place votes last week, would jump up Purdue, who had received 3. And I was right. I mean, every first place vote, but every first or second place vote went to Purdue or Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue. I thought that's why maybe Purdue might have gotten overtaken, just because it was so clear that it was those two alone, that I'm not sure a ton of thought was going to go into it. And it wouldn't just be, well, Alabama looks hot right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, pretty much the one negative you can say about Purdue is the Big Ten isn't that impressive.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, Purdue also...
SEC is not impressive.
Right. But Purdue had a great non-conference. Right. Mm-hmm. So you got to remember that as they go through these rankings. They can't just base it on, they've played some bad teams in conference, which Purdue is obviously the Big Ten, a major conference. They, if the conference is down, you can't help that as a team in the conference. You can only play who is on your schedule. So,
yeah, 19-1. I mean, that's a big boy record.
Yeah, it is. Best start in school history. So, I mean,
were you surprised by that?
That it was the best start in school history? No, not at all. I mean, I've been watching Purdue basketball, since the Big Dog era.
Right.
And I mean, there have been a lot of good teams, but Purdue generally has a pretty tough non-conference schedule. So it didn't really surprise me that 19-1 is the best start.
I just always assume a team from like 1794 went 23-1, taking on Marion 4 times a week.
Nope. Purdue basketball didn't start until 1896.
That was close.
1896. The first game. Do you know who the first game we played was?
No. Chicago.
The Lafayette YMCA. That's true. I looked it up the other day for a story and was like, that is bizarre.
I want to know how that team got put together, because I've been
the Purdue team or the Lafayette
YMCA, because I've been deserving.
I assume it was just the 5 guys who were there at the time. They're like, hey, we're Purdue. We got next.
Yeah, because
the
Francis Cordova correct team. Like, I need to be on that. Who can we face? Chicago State. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, no, we could get University of Chicago, still technically a Big Ten member, and then you could go from there. Yeah, they're still a member of the Big Ten academically, but they don't compete athletically.
This is real?
Yeah.
Never heard this.
Yeah.
Do people know this?
I mean, I know this.
I think you're dropping a truth bomb.
Now you're making me Google it, because I'm like, I know I'm right, but
what does that mean to be athletically linked or academically linked?
Well, it's like, so you're going to make me, all the research institutions,
I would never have brought this up.
I know all the Big Ten institutions, they share their research with one another. So they still have that, but the University of Chicago left the Big Ten in.
So they're on our Google Drive.
Yeah, exactly. They have the permissions to log into the big document dumps, but
we broke up, but they're still on the Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. We were like, we're already paying for the 4 screens. We might as well let them have one.
Yeah, I'm glad we're not petty.
Yeah, the breakup was amicable. It was fine.
Sure. So this leads perfectly into the conversation. Ledman, what is happening with the Big Ten this year?
I have no idea. I can't remember a year where the Big Ten has been this bad. You said it the other day to me, and I think you put it on Twitter as well. It's like after Purdue and maybe Rutgers at 2, it's like from 3 to 11.
I just did my power rankings today.
It's just like this. I mean, it doesn't matter. Put a name in and pull it out of a hat. And then the next week, it's probably going to be completely different, because we've seen teams like Michigan go absolute in the crapper and then come back. IU has gone, way into the basement, and then they've played the last 3 games. Yep. Ohio State looked good and then lost 4 or 5 in a row. Illinois has
lost to Minnesota at home.
Yeah, at home. Yeah, that was a bad game. I watched the second half of that one and I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah, what's
because Ohio State has so much more talent than Minnesota.
Sensabaugh by himself should probably it should be a 3-point game of just him.
Yeah.
if I'm his
Yeah.
teammate.
He's a freshman. I don't know if you've ever watched a game with him in it. They tend to say that 100 times every game.
In their defense, doesn't look like a freshman. Physically, very gifted. But yeah, it's just wild because I'm doing the power rankings today, and it's so just arduous after the second spot.
Yeah.
I give it to Indiana for 3 just because by default almost.
Yeah.
And Illinois
they're playing well right now. That's for sure.
I've got Illinois at 11. They're not that far off.
From 3.
Yeah. I like at 4, 5, 6, Illinois was considered.
Yeah.
I ended up dropping them all the way down because I don't
Illinois
like
and Ohio State play today, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I was just watching Rutgers and Penn State, and it looked like Rutgers was handling.
Yeah, I would think Rutgers is going to win that one, but I believe Illinois and Ohio State play today because it's one of those I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
Right now, Illinois is up by 12, 31-43.
See? Right.
So
too low.
Yeah, I guess.
It's to the point where Purdue leads Ken Palm. They have the best offense and best defense in the conference.
I thought you were about to say country. I was like, no.
They're 4th now nationally in offense and 16th, up to 16th in defense. That is the best mark in both in the conference. And past that, you are looking at programs that you're pretty much choosing. They are a one-sided team. Which side do I like the most?
Yeah.
Iowa's offense is elite, 5th in the nation.
Defense, not so much.
No. Ohio State's offense is pretty good, but falling. Their defense isn't very good. A lot of teams, it's the opposite. Rutgers, elite defensive team, not a very good offensive team.
Yeah.
Outside the top 100 right now, I believe. So it's a whole lot of those, which kind of makes sense when you look at recruiting overall and looking into next year. The McDonald's All-American, I think 2 players are going to the Big Ten. So we're like the conference is not adding that top end talent.
No.
A lot of reasons for that. Obviously, it's interesting because the way we're losing recruits to overtime and professional and stuff like that kind of makes the big schools' jobs harder because there's not as many 5 stars to go around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think Purdue is in a really good sweet spot when it comes to recruiting because we weren't really in play for those anyway.
Right.
And so now they're just kind of getting the best of the 4-year guys and accidentally hit on Ivy, who turns into a 2-year lottery pick. So it's working out for Purdue, but you're seeing teams like Michigan State gets Xavier Booker, but overall there's not the same amount of 5 stars to grab from.
Yeah.
And they seem to be really concentrated.
Even with Xavier Booker going to Michigan State, granted, he's obviously very talented. I don't know if Izzo still has it in him. I missed doing the podcast with you, buddy, because my goodness. Man whines. He's not the same coach he was even 5 years ago.
Yep.
He's always been like an angry, grouchy kind of like old guy
vibes.
Yeah. Very much like I've put in my time. Yeah. Everyone should respect me.
Right.
Why aren't things going my way? I mean, his press conference after losing to Purdue, complaining about the officials was so whiny.
Yes.
It's just, and he does.
He said he wasn't whining, Ledman, so he wasn't whining.
I love that. That's like
no offense.
Exactly. No offense. Or in Talladega Nights, all due respect, but I think you're dumber than a piece. It's like, that's not, you can't just say that and then say anything you want. That's not how that phrase really works. It's just wild. Yeah. But to your point earlier about, the Big Ten being, you're either good at offense or you're good at defense. Right. I know you're using Ken Palm. Somebody tagged us, the Hammer and Rails account, CBB Analytics, on Twitter put out an XY axis, with offensive rating on one.
That's one of those graph things.
That is a graph, yes.
Okay.
And Purdue, just in the complete upper right quadrant.
Oh, right, yeah.
Exactly where you want to be. Top offense, top defense. And so it's very interesting to me to see it all kind of plotted out because you really do see Minnesota is so far down in the bottom left. Terrible offense, terrible defense. And, you look at these these charts and you really are like, I mean, that really is how the Big Ten is right now.
Right.
There's Purdue looks elite. Everyone else is good at like one thing.
Right.
And then there's a whole bunch of teams that are bad.
And we know that March Madness success is based off being good at both.
Yeah.
And it's also a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because when you put so many, especially like so many defensive charged teams against offenses that struggle, it's just going to get even uglier when they play.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to grind everything out. And I think teams have done a good job doing that to Purdue lately. Maryland.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's how
yeah. I mean, the
won.
second half of that Maryland game was an absolute rock fight.
Right.
Maryland was causing Purdue to take 10, 12, 15 seconds to, get across the timeline and then set up an offense. Yeah. And then suddenly what usually takes 20 seconds, you've only got 15. And then you're hustling, you're rushing things.
Yep.
Then you make an errant pass. And then, suddenly Maryland's, taking a fast break. Although they didn't convert many fast break points, but they had a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it was interesting. I really did think Maryland had, we talked about Nebraska, or in general, people have talked about how Nebraska's defense really solved something. Purdue had open looks against Nebraska, both games. They just didn't make threes. There was not open looks for Purdue against Maryland. Those guards ran everything off, defended well, rotated behind it, and Purdue looked tired.
Yes, especially Braden Smith. Yeah. Braden Smith looked very tired. I don't know if he was sick or what. We got a lot of questions about that on Twitter, but I hadn't heard anything one way or the other. But the fact that Purdue only took 10 threes in the entire game was really indicative of what Maryland was doing to them on the perimeter. They just couldn't find any open looks. Especially Purdue started 2 for 3 and then wound up 2 for 10. So it just tells you how well Maryland clamped down.
Yeah. And I think the blueprint to, in theory, beat Purdue, which I don't want to phrase it that way because one team has beat Purdue. There's not a blueprint. But big guards, if you can have big guards and big wings that can really muck it up and play physical. We know Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, they're tough, they're good, but they are at a size disadvantage. And if they have to work that much harder in a game, it's going to be hard to get clean looks. It's hard to, Lawyer did a really good job attacking Michigan State. Michigan State plays 3-point guards. And I think that matters a lot for Purdue.
Yeah.
So, that really seems like the only, if there is an Achilles heel of Purdue, they're not the biggest team guards. So,
I mean, that is true, but I would say also, Purdue's inconsistency from the 3-point line.
It's not great.
It has been the other one. In the games we've really struggled. That Maryland game, as I said, we were 2 for 10. We didn't shoot it well against Rutgers. We didn't shoot it well against Nebraska. Right. And those are our closest games, and of course our one loss. So if they can do better there, it's very, very tough to beat them.
Yeah, that was just the first game where they didn't get the looks, which is more concerning to me because it still feels a little unlucky that in general, everyone on this team has a pedigree to shoot. So it's a little strange they haven't made shots, but as long as they're getting them, I think you're going to feel better than not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah.
But our final thing, or one last thing before we let you go.
Okay.
You were co-founder of the IU Sucks thing?
Yeah.
All of that. You've never once told this story. We have podcasted for hundreds of hours.
I have told this story.
And this thing that we have whined about that I hate.
I have
that
told
I think
you
kind of hate too.
No.
I don't ever remember you saying
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to stop you. You're mischaracterizing my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love it at football after the kickoff. That I think is just silly and doesn't really make any sense. So at football or at basketball, the song Hailfire they used to play, they don't play anymore, where the students did the dance and they put their arms. Yes. That was the song that we put in the IU Sucks cheer at the end. And
just for IU games, or
we did it for every game, but there's a reason for it. Okay. So this is
your chance to defend yourself.
Oh, I'll defend myself all the time. I even wrote an article about this on Hammer and Rails that you can find. We don't read that website though, right? I knew you were about to say that. So when I was vice president of the paint crew, they invited a couple of the exec board members to go to a band practice because they wanted like coordinate between the paint crew and the band so that we're all on the same page. And
Did
it
you
make
guys go to the band practice
yes,
all the
yes.
time?
No.
Okay.
Just for
Just
one,
this one
because they wanted,
occasion.
yeah, they wanted to walk us
Okay.
through like, okay, here's our cues for this, here's our cues for that,
Mhm.
and then that way, Dylan was the other guy who went with me. He was the secretary at the time, so that him and I could then relay it to everybody. We could put it in the game day sheets. We could make sure everybody
Mhm.
was on the same page, which I agree with 100% needs to be done for student section, um, and we can be ready to go. So um, they had us come. Dylan and I already hated the Hailfire thing. Like
Okay.
we thought the dance looked stupid. We
Sure.
thought we looked like idiots. And like only a third or maybe less of
Nah.
students did it anyway.
Which is the
So
worst of all the looks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were like, this is awful. But at the band practice, the band director, who was I think Max Jones
Okay.
at the time, was like,
Shout
okay, now
out Max.
here's the dance. And so they had like they played the song. Dylan and I were just sitting there like looking at each other like, oh, I hate this. And they
Mhm.
had like a couple band members like, okay, and then we do this, and then we flex at the end. And it was like great, great, okay, uh-huh. And so later on, there was a women's basketball game, and we went to it. And if you'll remember, Purdue bands used to play Rock and Roll Part Two,
Okay.
and it was the da 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 da, and then Purdue
Mhm.
students would yell, "Ah, you sucks" at that point.
Ah.
And then they stopped playing that because people
So
were
they've
yelling
been
IU sucks.
so they've been trying to take this away for a long time.
Exactly.
Okay.
So at the women's game, they still played Rock and Roll Part 2
Okay.
because no one yelled IU sucks. But then one game, it might have even been an IU game, a bunch of paint crew people went to the women's game
And you were reminded.
and they played that song and we were like, all right. So we yelled IU sucks during it. And a couple of the people who were in the band were like, you can't do that. We're like, and we're idiot college kids.
Yeah.
So we were like, we can do whatever we want.
Oh no.
And the band director was like, well, we won't be able to play that song if you keep doing that. And we're like, oh really? so, so then at that game, we put IU sucks into every single song the band played because we were jerks and we were
Uh-huh.
21, 22 years old. And so then after that game, the next Purdue game, Purdue men's game, we were like, Dylan and I were like, we got to get rid of this dance. We hate it. Let's get rid of it.
So IU sucks was planted to get rid.
Absolutely.
So it worked just way
Yes.
later.
Well, so we planted, like we put it because we knew a lot of people in the paint crew. So we were like, hey, we told this person, we told this person, we told this person, and they're scattered throughout the paint crew.
Uh-huh.
And instead of doing the dance, we would always just stand up and just put one finger up in the air. And we
You were
would
the
just,
bloodline before the bloodline?
yeah, basically. So we would just stand up and put one finger in the air and we'd wait and we'd wait. We wouldn't do the dance. We'd just stand up and everybody was like looking at us. And then at the end, they do this, ah. And so we waited for that and then just yelled, ah, you sucks. And then it just like everybody laughed when we did it. And so the next game, because they play the song every game at the exact same time. The next game, it was more people did it, and more people until the entire arena was.
We're all sheep.
And then, like to make matters worse, then everybody was doing the dance.
No, the dance came back
because they were like, "Oh, this is great! It leads into the IU sucks chant." So, like everybody was doing the dance. So it went on for years.
Yeah.
Everybody doing this dance and the whole arena was doing
it. Took COVID to kill it.
But still, like me and a couple people who were still at Purdue at the time, like when that started, would still just stand up and put one finger in the air and no one knew what we were doing.
Holdouts, yeah.
Yeah, but then eventually they finally, I think allegedly, I believe it came from Mitch Daniels that they were like, you got to stop doing that. And
it was right after the Matt Harms thing in IU, right?
I think it might have been, yeah.
I think that was the kind of catalyst for
Yeah.
We all need to be nice to each
Let's
other.
be nicer.
But you wanted but you planted this what 20 years ago? 15? How old are you?
It was 2007, 2008. So it would have been
15, 16.
15 years
Okay.
ago. Yeah.
So you planted it to get rid of the song.
Yeah.
The song is gone now, and so is IU Suck. So
yeah,
it was a long con and it worked.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, now I want it to come back because it was so
The
fun at
song?
the end. I mean, I can deal with the dance. The song I think is fine. I have nothing against the song. The song is a lovely song for a band to play.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't like the dance.
Okay.
And then, like I said, it just like it ballooned on us and morphed into this whole thing, and we were like,
There's no
I
chance
don't
you
know.
told me this story.
I'm
Zero
pretty sure I
chance.
have. I'm pretty sure I have.
There is no way I would have forgot all this.
Yeah, well,
That's great. Pretty timely. We play IU in like week and a half, 2 weeks.
I think that's right.
So you officially as a former vice president of the paint crew are petitioning for IU Sucks to come back.
So I actually one of the folks who's in the paint crew now, like one of the exec board members. I'm not going to name names.
Careful.
Reached out and just wanted to talk about like how we did things back then and like
tell him the story.
I did at least part of it. I don't know how much. I can't remember everything I told him, and he was like, yeah, apparently they had a meeting to try to like get some stuff back that they'd taken away. And allegedly there was just like a lot of pushback from administration. They're like, not going to happen. So he's like, well, we tried, it's not going to work. So it sounds like unless something, and maybe the new president will have a softer heart for it. He seems to go to a lot of sporting events. So,
he was very pumped.
He looked like he was having a good time.
Yeah. So this is too good. Yep. So that's the IU Sucks, the origination and the origin.
I knew it, man. I was gonna let it go.
Origami or origin.
That's the origami.
Yeah.
Of the IU Sucks.
All right. Is there anything else? I think we're about ready to wrap this up. Anything else? We're going to Michigan Thursday.
Yeah.
Didn't end well last time. You worried?
No. It's a tough place to play. Their fans are usually pretty rowdy. Their students, at least.
I have no expectations. I don't know how to feel. It's a football school.
Yeah. Their student section is really close to the court, though. They're right behind the bench for Michigan and Purdue, but it's kind of like they have it set up kind of funky. But it's a pretty good environment. I like watching games there. I think I've told you the time I got kicked out of my seat at the Michigan game for standing up.
Yes.
And cheering. So we talked about that on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good place to watch a game. I think Purdue should win the game. I mean, Purdue is more talented. I think Edey and Dickinson will be a fun matchup.
Right.
But I think Edey should get the best of it.
But Dickinson has 10 3-pointers made this year to this point, 10 and 20.
And he will hit 3 against Purdue.
He went 6-9 against Purdue last season in 2 games.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting.
Gonna be fun to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, for Ledman, I'm Casey. This is been a fun little rejoiner of
That's right.
Podcast Past. Definitely go ahead and there's a little button down there. I think it's going to be right here on the right, over here, maybe over there. It'll be one of these places. It says subscribe. Hit it. Make those numbers jump.
That's right.
And yeah, everyone else just enjoy watching the game on Thursday. Thanks for watching.
Boiler up.
Boiler up.